For this video, I will show you how to boost up the contrast of an image with a high pass filter. I will show you how to create a smart filter or turn your image into a smart object in order to apply smart filters to it. So I've got an image of a cowboy. He is in the background. That's the background layer. I'm going to move the layers panel over, and I'm going to show you what happens when a high pass layer is used on this image. Okay, I'm going to turn my high pass on and off, on and off. I'm going to zoom in slightly here and turn it on and off. What is happening is that every area of contrast in my image has been boosted up, either brightened or darkened. Now this high pass filter layer is using a blend mode of vivid light. I'm going to zoom through and show you what linear light looks like, what hard light looks like, and you can see this high pass filter is becoming less and less and less obvious. If I turn it off completely, it almost seems as though the image was not in focus, but it is completely in focus. I'm going to ditch that high pass filter and show you step by step how I create a high pass filter on my image. And I'm using CS6. So I'm going to go into my filter dropdown and show you where the high pass exists. Okay, so the filter, other, high pass. Now, I have bypassed convert for smart filters. You don't want to do that. You don't want to do that with the filters because converting for smart filters, number one, means you're smart. It also means that your image will not be destroyed. We don't want to destroy our image. We want to work non-destructively. So bypassing to high pass is going to actually destroy the pixels or change the pixels in our image. So I'm just gonna go through what not to do first. So for any of the filters, if I go to filter and then to a blur, distort, a noise, pixelate, etc., the same thing is going to happen. My image is going to be changed. So if I say OK now, you can see what happened to my background image. Well, that's not good. That is not what I want at all. So I'm going to go back in time one step, go to filter, convert for smart filters, and you can see that there's an icon in the corner of my image. That means that that image cannot be touched, that it is a smart object, that if I really wanted to go in and change this image now, I would have to double click and access the smart image, which is a copy of this image. Now that's what Photoshop does, and convert it into, invisible background, etc. Anyway, so in order to use this filter, I converted to a smart object first, and now I return to the filter dropdown, go to other, high pass. My image has been turned into a high pass image. I can say OK. So this is the proper thing to do. And I can go see that the smart filter can be turned on and off. The high pass can be turned on and off. And I can also use my blending options for this filter and have it somehow be applied to my image. Double click, opens up the blending options. I'm going to navigate down, zoom all the way down to vivid light, and therefore applying this high pass to my image. I'm going to say OK. Now this looks like a little bit different than the original image I was showing you, where the cowboy had been left as the background layer, locked, and there was a duplicate layer with the high pass applied to it. So I'll show you this other way of creating a high pass, which sometimes I prefer to use rather than using the smart filter. So again, what I've done is I clicked on my layer, background layer, cowboy layer. I converted this image to a smart object, then returned to the filter dropdown and went to other high pass. Okay, that is what I have showed you. This is the first way to do it. This is going to be the second way to do it. I'm going to navigate to my history panel and go all the way back to my original, and I'm going to drop that high pass filter in the trash. Okay, drop it into the trash. So you can see I have my background layer. This is my preferred way rather than using the smart filter. I usually use the high pass in this way. Command J gives me a copy of the background layer. Then I will go to Filter, Other, High Pass. And you can see that I can up the high pass or change the radius for the high pass to a lower level, which just means how many pixels are going to be affected by this high pass. I say OK, and you can see what I've got now. I've got this high pass on an image above the image that was my original master image. What I want to do is combine the two. So same thing, navigate to the blend mode, vivid light, and see what happens to my image. And I'm checking out the image. I'm looking everywhere. I'm looking in the eyes, the beard, on the hat as well. Now this is why I like to use the duplicate layer, because I can be, in this case, I think I'm in more control. I am going to add a mask to layer 1, which is the high pass. So you can see I've added a layer mask. I'm going to just float over the add vector or add vector mask, add layer mask. So I've added a mask to layer 1, and I'm going to use a paintbrush. Okay, a paintbrush. This is a 405 pixel paintbrush, quite big, hardness at 50%, and I'm going to paint on the mask, and I'm going to show you the mask. I'm going to click Option. This mask is completely white. The masking advantage in Photoshop is a huge one. I can mask out the high pass where I don't want it. White reveals, black conceals. So I'm pressing Option to return back to my view mode of the image. I've got my brush ready. I've got my opacity at 100%. I've got black as my foreground color. And I'm going to start painting on the cowboy's hat. Okay, and where I think the brush is a little bit too big, I can press the bracket, the backward bracket, and make my brush smaller and click and start painting away that filter, that high pass filter. So what does this mean? What am I doing? I'm going to Option click back in the mask. You can see my beautiful brushwork. I have painted black where I do not want that high pass to be seen. So I'm pressing Option, going back in. I'm going to start painting away. And you'll probably see, if I zoom in a little bit, Command plus, that there are areas where I don't want that contrast to be that high. So on his hat, it's some of the white speckles. On the edge, I'm painting away, I'm painting out, I'm masking out that high pass. And I'll press Option again, take a look at the mask, take a look at where I'm painting. I'm using my spacebar key to navigate, to move, and you can see when I press the spacebar, the hand is moving my picture around because I've zoomed in quite a bit and I want to paint with my paintbrush. So I'm toggling between the hand, which is the spacebar, moving my image, and then painting away that high pass. And wherever I feel that there's a little bit too much contrast, I can paint on my mask. So I'll go back and I'll show you the mask. Command minus to zoom out slightly. If I feel like I've missed areas, that's a great way to use the view mask. Option click to get back to the image. Command plus to zoom in slightly. And I'll show you what I can do to just take that image high pass down slightly, but not 100%. So I'm going to go back to the mask for a moment, zoom out. you can see that my mask has either white or black pixels, and then there's that area in between, that transitional area. Because my brush has a 50% hardness, the edge of the brush is soft, it's feathered, okay? That is showing up as gray on the mask. Now, if I want to, and I'll click back on my image, if I want to tone down that high pass and maybe the skin tone somewhere, I can use my brush as a black brush, but at a lower opacity in order to paint. And I'll just change this to 50%. I can use that brush, and I'll zoom in slightly just to let you see what's going on here. Paint with a 50% brush, and hopefully you can see this. It's taking away some of the high pass on the cheek. What happens on the mask is that I've been painting with 50% opacity of black. That's gray. So my mask now holds, and I'll command minus, gray, white, and black. So black conceals, white reveals, and the gray will conceal slightly less than 100%, 50%, 60%, 80%, 20%, etc. So this is a really great way of masking an effect on my image. So you can see one of the cheeks has less of that high pass, the other one has 100%. Okay, so that is an intro into masking, an intro into smart filters, smart objects, just a touch into that concept of masking and smart objects. The next video will go into smart objects a little bit deeper.